Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey, Jason.
Hey.
Thank you so much for joining myself and Jason today. We're going to be covering a lot of great, interesting information today. Your tagline for the event is your security weapon on war against cybercrime. I'm going to introduce Jason from PCS Managed Services to talk a little bit about his company and introduce you from there, and then we will continue on. Jason?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We're getting started in just a few minutes. I want to take a few moments to cover a few things. We will not be fielding questions during the session today. Instead, we'll be providing an email address for anything you want to learn more about. We will be providing complimentary network and security assessment for anyone who has interest, and we will follow up after the event in case you missed the contact information. For anybody who misses today's live event, we will make the recording available soon after. A couple things about our team. We're locally owned here in Memphis since 1987, currently providing managed services to over 1,000 people right here in the Mid-South. We do have in-house cybersecurity resources, and we do provide a touch-free option for assessments and consulting. The email address will be shown soon at the end. However, if you do want to write it down now, it's sales@pcs-ms.com. Again, we'll put that on the slide at the end of this. Enjoy the session today. Desiree, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So, Jason, I've never been to Memphis. I think that it's definitely a place I've always wanted to go. What would be the one thing that I would have to do in Memphis if I showed up?
You need to eat some barbecue for sure.
Exactly.
You got to visit Graceland, the home of Elvis Presley. You got to do that.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
And you got to see some of the local sports. You got to see the Grizz. You got to see the Redbirds, things like that.
Oh, I've always wanted to, so I'm Canadian, and being from good old Canada, except for hockey, our sports is probably about half of what you guys do. I've always wanted to go to some big games. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, the Forum, we've got FedEx's headquarters here, and the FedEx Forum is a pretty awesome venue to watch some basketball or see a concert or anything. So you definitely need to check those out.
All right, as soon as the borders open up, I'll come visit. All right, to introduce myself, my name is Desiree Thomas. I'm one of the channel development managers here at Datto. Datto, there's a really good chance you've never heard of Datto or worked with Datto. And the reason that would be is because we work with managed service providers such as PCS, and we help support them with the solutions and the products they need to support you guys. I do like to show a little bit of a proof point about who we are, just to give you an idea. So we were founded in 2007. One of those, our CEO at the time, founder, he got out of school and realized that he wasn't really finding a job and wanted to figure out how to get one. So he created a product out of his parents' basement to hopefully put enough on his resume that he'd be able to get a job, and that kind of blew up. Now we're 35 locations worldwide with over 1,700 employees, 9 data centers, and a huge amount of data that's stored on your guys' behalf worldwide. So we're going to talk a lot of information today. Hopefully I'll keep it engaging for you and hopefully a little bit entertaining. Maybe you can laugh or learn something or find something for your tabletop conversation next week. But business continuity. So business continuity and backup. And a lot of the times when I attend these events in live, usually I get to actually go to Memphis and see you guys, which is always a good time. But unfortunately, that's not the case. I ask people, well, what do you really think backup is for? And especially Jason and I were just talking about like hurricane season. A lot of the times you got floods, hurricanes. I'm from Calgary, Alberta, like I had said, good old Canadian. And in Calgary, we had a massive flood several years ago that actually shut down the downtown core for one whole week. No one was allowed in or out. So crazy days, things are always happening. But the thing is, even especially now in this new work from everywhere environments with kids running around, dogs running around, people crashing computers, like all of the things are happening. People are your greatest risk. This is always going to be the case. On some fun stories that I like to share. This is Mr. Jeffrey Wong. Now, he is the guy in Hawaii that manages the security systems and alerting systems so that if let everyone know if anything bad is going to happen in Hawaii. And lovely Jeffrey Wong, this is his LinkedIn profile. He's super excited and he lets everyone know what his password is to his computer on the sticky note. If you're storing your passwords on a sticky note, don't do that. Lesson number 1, we're going to cover a lot of little tips and tricks today. Then we've got Mr. Simon Parker in the UK, letting everyone know there's an emergency alert happening. And by the way, there's the password and username. Bring it back to the US during the Super Bowl. My favorite part about this is the Super Bowl security inside, first of its kind, super secret. Shh, don't let everyone know there's the password and the login. So those are kind of some examples of why our people will always be your greatest risk. And I want to kind of go into what the internet actually is. So it's when I first learned about this, it's crazy to me to realize how much of the internet I'm actually using on a day-to-day basis. I am literally on my computer probably at least 10 hours a day, probably more or sometimes less, don't tell my boss. But I'm just in the surface web. I'm really just Googling, I'm researching, I'm looking up your businesses, I'm on Facebook, I'm on social media, I'm putting myself out there. Those are the reasons that I am doing things to do my job and live my life. Then you have that deep web and the dark web, depending on where you're working or what businesses you're working for, you're probably maybe dealing with medical records or financial documents. So there's a good chance that you might actually be working in the deep web. Then you have the dark web. That's where all those bad guys hang out. So you have your drug trafficking, your Bitcoin, all of this stakes, the ransomware, ransom cloud, which we're going to talk a lot about here. That's where that bad stuff is happening. And this is why it's invisible. It doesn't matter who you are. Nobody can ever find out who you are. And that's why that will never go away and it's going to stick. So it's really crazy to me that 96% of web content is in the deep or dark web. So stuff you're not even using on a day-to-day basis. Then I want to talk about the evolution of cyber threats are. Who are the bad guys? When you go back in the 90s and you look at the Hackers movie, I always figured that would be really cool. I could have some rollerblades and roll around and it would be great, right? Well, there's a lot of different types of threats out there on a day-to-day basis. You've got your hacking collectives, IoT devices, hacking. This is really important, especially right now in this work from anywhere world. What are your IoT devices? What network are they connected to? There aren't security solutions. They aren't password protected. They are starting to enforce 2FA, but you see it on the news all the time where the kid is playing in his room and then all of a sudden Google starts talking to them, and that's an example of those IoT hackers. And then I'm going to show another example in a few where literally connected on the same network, bad guys are able to get in and see your systems. Ransomware developers. Once again, with Bitcoin, being able to not find out who the bad guys are, the police are not being able to find out who these guys are, and then $8 million in damages since 2018, that's a lot of money to be made. So ransomware isn't going to go anywhere, and these developers are constantly staying one step ahead of everyone, developing new products that are easy for people to use, easy for people to buy. So some examples. And then we've got nation state. Unfortunately, there are different countries around the world who don't like North America, whether that be Canada or the US. They are trying to steal as much information from us as they can. Organized crime, the bad guys, the organized crime has been around forever. And of course, they want a piece of that dollar. So they're going to try to take as much of it as they can. Insider threats. This one is kind of underestimated, and it's something that I really, really like to point out. Insider threats is can be a massive strike to your business. If you have a technician or a staff member, an employee, and they leave your company, what information are they taking with them? Do you know what information? Do you know what information is the potential? And whether that be, sometimes it's just them maybe taking some clients, which just sucks. But then there's other times where literally there's stories that have happened where these staff are leaving companies and selling all your credentials on the dark web because they need to make money too. Then we go script kiddies and so hacktivists. The list really, really goes on, and it will continue to grow as money is needed or as money can be made. Ransomware is king. It's apparent. I every time I do one of these events, I go take a Google in the kind of the area that you're in and just see what ransomware, what's happening in your local area. And I found so many examples, even in the last 3, 6, 9 months, is specifically to your area. Ransomware is king. By the amount paid by ransomware for ransom was 700 million in 2018. So just to stress this for a second, this is the amount the FBI was actually told that small to medium-sized businesses paid. Now, you can imagine if you got hit with ransomware and you were going to pay, you're probably a little bit embarrassed. So not everybody is even letting the FBI know that this is actually happening. So this number can be drastically larger than 700 million. Some examples of ransomware and how smart it's gotten and where it kind of started. We've got Popcorn Time. I like to point this one out just because it's evil genius, and some of these are just, you got to respect the evil genius. Popcorn Time was the first ransomware to meld together social engineering and ransomware. So now you get an email, your computer's all locked up, and you have a chance. At that point in time, you either pay the ransom, which if you don't have any money, how are you going to pay it? Or you can email this, forward this to 2 people that you do or do not like. Maybe you got an ex, maybe you don't. Maybe someone you're not really, an old boss you don't really like anymore, but you forward this to 2 of them, and then you no longer have to pay the ransom, and it's now on them to either forward or do the same thing. Pretty smart. So there was a time that we used to think, go back to the hackers day, there's a kid in a basement or living with his mom. Ransomware is now really, really big business. I cannot stress this enough. It is worldwide. It is translated into every language. You can purchase ransomware and have help desks teach you how to use it. And they make it really, really easy to use just to be able to spread as quickly as possible. Now, I promised I'd talk about IoT devices. And when we're looking at a casino picture, we're thinking about a greatest casino heist. We're not necessarily, first thought that comes to mind isn't usually an IoT device. It's usually like me and Brad Pitt breaking into a vault because we're best friends. I have my dreams. These things can happen one day. But there was a massive casino heist that happened back in 2018 that was literally via the fish tank thermometers. And we think of a place like Vegas, they're gotta save money to time. Time equals so much money for them everywhere. Everyone's moving so quickly. So of course it makes sense that they would have IoT fish tank thermometers. That just saves a whole bunch of time. But unfortunately, the bad guys were able to hack in and steal all of the high rollers' personal information because those IoT devices were connected on the same network and they were not secured. This is happening every day. And so especially in now you're working from home, your kids are using your laptops, everyone's connected to everything. Are you VPNing in? Do you have a secured network? Are your devices connected to the same thing your IoT devices are connected to? Those are important questions to ask. And this is why working with a managed service provider can help you step through those hoops and just figure out how secure your business is. To bring more relevant terms, because those were all kind of 2018, but I like them because they're fun. Talk about in March when everything kind of came screaming to a halt. I normally travel 70% of the time. I had so much travel booked in March, and as of March 5th, we were grounded, and that was it. Zoom started becoming the biggest thing. Instantly, Zoom hacks started taking place right away. This is really important to point out. If you're not password protecting your Zoom links, make sure you're doing that. It's really, really important. Hackers began exploiting Zoom success right away and using it to spread malware. And that was as early as March 30th and is still happening today. Then I wanted to bring, like I said, some slides that are news articles specific to where you are. All the way June 24th, we're looking July 24th, like these are super, super relevant examples. And this is specific to your area and it's costing your towns and cities hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s. And that's just in the ransomware and not even including downtime, which we're also going to cover in a second. Those are examples more specific to you. We talk about bigger cities. What about Atlanta? So Atlanta had a massive ransomware attack a little while ago. The ransom ask itself is only $52,000. Atlanta understands that you shouldn't be paying ransomware because if you're paying ransomware, you are actually funding bad, notoriously horrible things in the dark web. So instead of doing that, they ended up having to recruit their own information and doing whatever they can. Over the span of trying to fix the one ransomware attack, they ended up paying a third of their annual IT budget on one attack. And to this day, they've lost up to 7 years of police cam data that they still haven't gotten back. This is every day, and unfortunately, this is happening way too often. To bring it back now to more small to medium-sized businesses, because that's who you guys are. You aren't the city of Atlanta necessarily. I'm not sure who's watching this, but you're the city of Atlanta. So what about these small to medium-sized businesses? These numbers to me are staggering. 43% of all cyber attacks are actually aimed at the SMB industry. So at the small to medium-sized mom and dad pop shops, can be all the way up 10 employees, 20 employees to you guys. 85% of all email attachments are harmful. Now, you think about your HR person, you're doing a hiring spree, there's a good chance that they're having to open up 50, 100 emails a day. And without the proper training, if 85% of all email attachments are harmful, there's a good chance they're going to open a link that could be could be a bad link and could totally lock up everything on their systems and everything on their networks. 91% of attacks are all launched from a phishing attack. So try and figure out who you are and what information that you have. I was just in a webinar the other day, and they were talking about what a phishing attack now looks like. And in this email, the email had come from the CFO to the CEO, and the email literally knew that they had dinner the day before, that the CFO was going on vacation, the wife's names, where they were going, and it had just all of this information to prove exactly who they were. And at the very end said, but before I go on vacation, can you wire me this money? That these phishing attacks aren't just a matter of looking for the right spelling, although you should, or weird language, or so many things that we're trained to do, but they're really, really smart attacks that are happening every day. Cybercrime will cost $6 trillion by 2021. That's not, 6 trillion is a massive number, and it's not even anywhere probably close to where it could potentially be, because like I said, there's so much money to be made. 24,000 new malicious apps are removed from the App Store daily. That number actually shocked me. I was super, super surprised. Those are just the apps that are removed. Crazy to me to think that that's how many bad apps are in the App Store on a daily. And then ransomware is up 180% by 2018. That number is drastically larger by now these days. And then, really important to point out, a business is hit with ransomware every 13 seconds. This is no longer the point in time in our lives that we can think about when or if this will happen to me. It's a matter of when. And so you need to make sure that you have the steps in place to protect yourself when this has happened, so you don't actually have to go through any of these issues. So we need to stop thinking about traditional backup. We understand now why all of these things we just talked about, why you need to be backing your systems up. So when you get hit by ransomware in that 13 seconds, if and when it happens, because it will happen at some point in time, if someone clicks a bad link, you need to have your systems back up because you can be back up and running. But there's a difference between just having things backed up and then having business continuity. The easiest way to talk about that is what's not continuity. So not continuity, your cloud-only backup, your local, including tape. A lot of the time with tape, people don't even know, they haven't checked it, they don't know if it's working, what's saved, where it's saved, or even where the tape is located, where those tapes from the past have been put, file-based backed up, and manually not tested. Having a continuity solution is having all of those things in place. So you have a hybrid cloud-based backup solution in place, image-based backup. So if I was to take my computer, or my dog's sitting next to me right now, he was to come over and knock things over, I can instantly go work on a network computer and have everything exactly the way I need it to be able to be back up and running on a consistent pace. Fully automated with screenshot verification. Screenshot verification is really important because as an example, how often are you backing things up? If I know that I'm working on a massive project, I'm backing up my computer more often because it means more to me for me to have to go back and redo it. Every time I take a backup, the screenshot verification is actually going to look and make sure that backup is actually working and looks the way it needs to look. All of this is really to point to eliminate the downtime. We're going to talk about what downtime actually means in a second, but the reason why downtime is so important is because it takes a while sometimes to get back up and running if you only have a backup solution. I've seen businesses like Atlanta be down for, or cities, but other businesses be down for a week, a month. How long can you be down for before your business is going to crumble? Instant virtualization, so instantly back up and running, and then your ransomware detection. Ransomware detection is super important. With our solution, every time that screenshot verification, so every time the backup is saved, what happens is if it notices that there's a different from the first point to the next, a massive, say, data load, or there's a massive difference, it'll actually notify your MSP and then say, hey, there's an issue here. We need to take a double look and see if there's ransomware on it. Sometimes there's not, but more often than not, there's actually been someone's accidentally pressed a wrong link and ransomware has been deployed. So I promised, talked really fast. I promised I'd talk about downtime. So we talk about recovery point objective. That is how often you're backing your information up. So as an example, if you are backing up once a day, once a week, or say, I always use the examples of university professor who's say grading all the papers. If they spent the entire time grading all their entire day grading all the papers and didn't back up, that means they're losing that entire day of data. They have to start all again. It could be a lot of work. Or another example, or then we go into recovery time. So how long can you be down for getting your information up? For an example for that, I talk about our Datto head office in Norwalk. In the Datto head office, downstairs in the basement, there's a restaurant, just a small one, coffee, sandwiches, those kind of things. Now, there comes a day during the week that their systems went down, so they weren't actually using us, but they weren't able to get back up and running for lunchtime, so they were only serving cash. They couldn't use any of the other systems. Well, there's like 18 restaurants right across the way, so instead of going there and eating there, everyone went across the street. So they lost that entire lunchtime of people spending money within their business. So what does that cost to them? To find out what that costs you, we have a recovery time downtime calculator that PCS can work with you at any point in time. It's simple questions, actually sit down with you, look at you answer these simple questions, how often you back up, your time, how many staff you have, really, really simple questions. And then actually sit down and see how much downtime can your business handle before it really affects you. It's a really valuable solution and questionnaire to go over and highly recommend. All right, continuity. Now we understand why we need not just a backup solution, but a continuity solution. We need to keep the business up and running as quickly as possible when something like this happens. But can we demonstrate it? This is one of the favorite parts of my job when we're in real life. We do our Datto's disaster demos. These are a lot of fun. We set things on fire, we blow things up, we shoot guns through things. It's all really, really entertaining and people love it. There's an example that I like to point out in Australia. So one of the first times we did a disaster demo in Sydney, Australia at the Marriott Hotel in the conference center. And we set a computer on fire, a lot of flash paper. It's not dangerous at all. What we didn't realize is the smoke detectors are a lot more sensitive there. And so the same example that we've been using across Canada in the US, we brought it to Sydney, and that meant the fire trucks came, the hotel got evacuated, the conference center got evacuated, and the Marriott was super cranky at us and gave us a massive fine. Two things happened from there. Our contracts with Marriott changed forever. We're no longer allowed to do that, which fair, respect to the Marriott. That's a good response. And two, we had to go to our boss and say, so we got a massive fine. And the first thing he said, luckily, was it cool? And we're like, yeah, it was cool. Don't do it again, but we're glad it was cool. Okay, so business continuity, backing your system, we really need to still talk about total data protection. But what does that mean for SaaS? Nowadays, you are in your emails every single day, all day. I check my email first thing when I wake up, the last thing before I go to bed, I'm in my email all day. What would that cost you? How much stress would that be to you if you were to lose your emails right now? Now, a lot of the times what people don't realize is they're like, well, Microsoft or Google, it's fine. I'll just call them. It'll be all good. Both Microsoft Office 365 and Google state in their SLAs that you must use a backup to back up your content, and they're not responsible for any data loss. They even say to use a third-party app, such as us. This is really, really important. There's an example that I like to point out that happened in the East Coast of the US with one of our partners. They had an end user. Luckily, they were using our solution, so they're able to work everything out. But one day they got up and went to work and their emails are gone, just gone. So when their MSP called Google and was like, hey, what happened? It took them a long time to figure it out, or a bit of time to figure it out. But there was a loss in Google of 0.00000, like ridiculous amount, but it ended up affecting this one partner or one end user, and all their emails were lost. Luckily, because of our solution, they were actually able to go take the information that we had saved and show Google and say, hey, these emails actually existed, and then use that while Google was able to fix and repair the issues that they had. Then we talk about ransomware. So we understand that even Google and Office 365 tell you to back up this information. Then we understand that, well, what if an employee leaves the company and deletes a bunch of information? There's, once again, people are your worst risk, all of those things. But there's also now ransomware that's specifically focused on these, on ransom cloud, on hacking into your emails. There's a lot of security training. I go into security training all the time. But it doesn't matter. Of course it matters, but sometimes people are busy. We are your greatest risk. I know Friday, I'm going to go camping at 3 p.m. I'm kind of done for the day. So sometimes if I get an email asking me to update my anti-spam, as an example here, there's a chance that I'm going to click through because I'm so busy, even with full training. And then instantly, that's how simple it is that one email locks up my entire emails. This is what ransom cloud looks like. Could you start working on a day with what would the value be here if you lost your entire emails? That would drive me crazy. Luckily though, there's a nice that tells you how to fix everything. So we have a video that actually shows this whole process. It's from Kevin Mitnick. We can send it to you at any point in time. It's super, super interesting. Kevin Mitnick was a hacker in the 80s, bad guy, went to jail. He was on the FBI's most wanted list, got caught, went to jail, and then now is a good guy and is a white hat hacker. And he shows this example. So this is a video that we can send off to you at any point in time to show you how ransom cloud actually happens. Now, we talked about the $700 million number, about that is what ransomware is costing. But this is where we talk about that downtime, the cost of downtime, the cost of getting back up, the cost of information being lost. Ransomware is costing small to medium-sized businesses $75 billion a year and up. That's really scary numbers, and this is why I do this every day. This is why I love having this security conversation and talking about this, because it's so important that you recognize this and that you're taking the steps to keep your business secure. All right, so we covered a lot of information, and I've just got a few more tips and tricks, and then we're almost done for the day. Stay protected. Some tips: your target offline and online. Always recommend it. Don't wait for it. It's not going to happen to me. It'll happen to somebody else. It's a matter of when. Like I said, every 13 seconds, small to medium-sized businesses are getting hit with ransomware. Make sure that you have policies and procedures in place. If you're not sure where to start, this can be really, really daunting. Talk to PCS. They can sit with you, do a cybersecurity assessment, and actually lay out and be like, these are the places you might be doing awesome. There's a good chance you're doing awesome. These are the places you're doing awesome. These are the places we'll edit, you'll change things and set more security settings, which is do a little better, but at least you'll have that peace of mind and be able to sleep at night. Ongoing employee training. It doesn't matter what position I've been in when it comes to, since I started security training, even in old past jobs, we would always get security tested and trained. You go through different things, and it's not good enough to do this once every 6 months. You need to keep it up always, and do penetration testing with your employees. Password management. I laugh, and it's crazy that this still happens every day. Password is not a good password. Storing your passwords on your computers is not a good idea. Use a password manager. There's several up there. PCS can sit with you and recommend some for sure. But having a password manager is really important. And then also, if you're not going to listen to me, I totally understand. Some people aren't there yet. I get it. Make sure you're not using the same passwords on your social accounts as your business accounts. That's probably the biggest takeaway if you're not going to use a password manager. Never leave your devices unattended. Now we're kind of all work from anywhere world, but There's in a world where I used to travel 70% of the time, I'm working in airports and I'm here and I'm there and I'm in hotels. Don't leave your devices unattended, and make sure you can notice who's looking over your shoulder and who's paying attention to what you're doing. Be careful what you click. There's a lot of bait out there. Just make sure. Bless me. Allergies. Antivirus and malware protection. Can't say that enough. Backups, backups, backups. Make sure that if for when this hits you, when this does happen, that you're able to be back up and running instantly. And if you're not sure what that looks like, and if you have a business continuity or if you don't have a backup in place, talk to PCS. Allergies. Mobile device policy, once again, cannot stress this one enough, especially in the new work from home or work from anywhere environment. What you're in families, like kids are using devices. I go over to my friends' houses and I watch their kids use their devices all night, all day. And those are really important to have. What is the device? What's your policy within your business? Do you want that to happen? What security do they need to have on their phones and their devices that they're using? I already talked about it, but security testing and making sure that you are always testing the systems that you have in place. With all of that, you're headed in the right direction. I thank you. PCS Managed Services thanks you. And then we do, like Jason had said, have a complimentary network and security assessment. Please reach out to sales@pcs-ms.com. And I thank you so much with your time. Security starts with you. And then Jason, did you have anything else that you'd like to add?
I'd just say thank you so much for spending the time with us today, Desiree, and always appreciate it. And thanks, guys, for attending the session. For those who missed it, missed some of the beginning of it, we do have this recorded, and we'll get that to you shortly. Talk soon, guys. Stay safe.
Cheers.